From having nothing but poverty at the time of its independence to becoming the wealthiest country in all of Asia. Do you know how the Asian miracle, Singapore, rose to prominence? As representatives of the economic boom in the latter half of the 20th century, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and South Korea are known as the Four Asian Tigers. By leveraging their labor force advantages and policy guidance, they took on labor-intensive industries that had shifted from developed countries and subsequently achieved industrial upgrading. Their successful rise into the ranks of developed economies is not only a classic example in development economics, but also provides valuable lessons for later developing countries. Among these four economies, Singapore, with the smallest size and the fewest resources, ultimately achieved a remarkable lead in per capita wealth, making it the most dazzling of the four Asian tigers. Yet who would have thought that this country, now shining brightly on the international stage, actually began its journey with a painful and sudden upheaval. Singapore's beginning was extremely difficult, so difficult that even Lee Kuan Yew, regarded as the founding father of Singapore, could not help but shed tears over it. In 1965, due to sharp divisions over ethnicity and political ideology, the Malaysian government, which adhered to a Malays First policy, ultimately decided to expel Singapore from the Federation, forcing it into independence. For a small island with limited land, scarce resources, no established military, a lack of national identity, and insufficient capital, this was nothing short of a tremendous challenge to its survival. Yet despite these difficult circumstances, the ruling team led by Lee Kuan Yew was pragmatic enough, and the people of Singapore demonstrated an extraordinary spirit of perseverance. These factors became the key assets that enabled Singapore's remarkable rise in the years that followed. Lee Kuan Yew never shied away from acknowledging Singapore's inherent disadvantages as a small nation in terms of security, resources, and strategic depth. In fact, he deliberately amplified this sense of vulnerability, turning it into a driving force that mobilized society to maintain a constant sense of crisis. Under his leadership, this clear awareness of survival pressure not only became an important psychological foundation for policy implementation, but also gradually evolved into an intrinsic logic in the construction of Singaporean national identity. In the face of the regional tensions triggered by Indonesia's confrontation policy and Malaysia's efforts to build its sovereignty in the 1960s, Singapore was keenly aware that, surrounded by powerful neighbors, a newly independent small nation that could not quickly establish its sovereignty and self-defense capabilities might face an existential crisis at any moment. As a result, national security became one of the top priorities for Singapore in the early days of its independence. To address potential threats, Singapore actively sought international recognition and quickly established diplomatic relations with various countries on one hand, while on the other, it secretly brought in Israeli military advisors to help form Singapore's first armed forces, laying the foundation for its future defense system. In fact, even before Singapore's independence, then Finance Minister Goh Keng Swee visited Israel in 1959 to study its experience in achieving industrialization and nationwide mobilization under conditions of limited resources. This visit also marked the beginning of a special connection between the two small countries, which share strikingly similar political realities. It was also during its interactions with Israel that Singapore encountered a figure who would prove extremely important to its national economic development, Meir, an Israeli economist who served as the first director of the Singapore Economic Development Board from 1961 to 1963. Meir's greatest inspiration to the Singaporeans was his strategic recommendation, based on Singapore's limited resources but advantageous geographic location, to skip the agricultural stage and focus directly on developing export-oriented industries to attract foreign investment. This propelled Singapore onto a path of highly concentrated and accelerated modernization. This became the prototype for what would later be known as the Springboard National Development Strategy. In addition, to ensure that the government possessed efficient execution capabilities during the process of rapid economic development, Meir, drawing on his background in corporate management, was the first to systematically introduce corporate management concepts into the Economic Development Board. He carried out comprehensive reforms in areas ranging from organizational structure and decision-making processes to performance evaluation. This not only profoundly changed the governance logic of the Singaporean government, but also subtly shaped a national value system in Singapore that prioritizes efficiency and results, a mindset that continues to this day. The Yulan Industrial Estate, covering approximately 9,000 acres, was the first large-scale industrial project led and developed by Singapore's Economic Development Board. The advancement of the Yulan project not only demonstrated the Singaporean government's highly efficient execution under conditions of scarce resources, but also symbolized the official launch of Singapore's national industrialization process. In 1964, the Volkswagen steel plant within the Yulan Industrial Estate opened, becoming one of the first industrial achievements in the area. Relying on the Economic Development Board's one-stop service system, system, which covered everything from land and construction to tax reductions and financing, Singapore subsequently received an enthusiastic response from foreign capital, attracting international giants such as Philips, Hewlett-Packard and Shell to set up operations. In Singapore's economic structure, foreign enterprises have always played a pivotal role, and the reason they have such strong confidence in Singapore and continue to increase their investments is because of this. This is not only due to the active efforts of the Economic Development Board in attracting investment, but is also closely related to Singapore's unique geographic position as a regional hub in Southeast Asia. Even more crucially, the Singaporean government has long been committed to creating a high-quality and stable business environment. Advantages such as a highly fair and transparent legal system, low tax burden and flexible incentive policies, world-class infrastructure, a clean and efficient government, as well as a large pool of highly qualified, English-proficient labor, all serve as a solid foundation that together make Singapore a global hotspot for investment. No investor is willing to put their money into a country where policies change at a moment's notice, the system is chaotic, and grey areas abound. According to the Corruption Perceptions Index published by Transparency International, Singapore has ranked among the top 5 globally for many years. Today, the Singaporean government is clean, and its governance is stable, making it one of the countries with the best business environments in the world. However, at the time of its independence, the Singaporean government was far from perfect. At that time, a saying circulated among Singaporean officials: retire after 3 years. The first year was for repaying favors, the second for enjoying rewards, and the third for saving for retirement. This reflected how widespread and entrenched corruption was then. To eradicate it, after coming to power, Lee Kuan Yew implemented tough measures. He granted the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau extensive law enforcement powers and made high salaries for officials the core of his reform strategy to promote integrity. This system continues today. According to data released by the Singaporean government in 2023, cabinet ministers earn an annual salary of over $1 million. The Prime Minister's annual salary is even higher, reaching about $1.6 million. The Prime Minister's annual salary is about $1.6 million. This globally rare salary system has greatly reduced the incentives for corruption, while also attracting a large number of highly qualified individuals to enter public service, fundamentally transforming the face and international image of the Singaporean government. The Singaporean government's strong emphasis on education has laid the foundation for its long-term competitiveness and has also become one of the key factors in attracting foreign investors. Although the Singaporean constitution designates Malay as the national language due to the bilingual education system implemented since the country's founding, especially the widespread promotion and strengthening of English, more than 75% of Singaporeans today are proficient in 2 or more languages. This has enabled Singapore not only to effectively attract and undertake foreign investment projects, but also to cultivate a large number of highly qualified professionals who can seamlessly switch between languages in the international workplace, thereby demonstrating remarkable adaptability and advantages in the global talent competition. Relying on its springboard-style national development strategy, Singapore achieved astonishing economic growth in the second half of the 20th century. However, in 1997, due to Thailand's insufficient foreign exchange reserves, it was unable to maintain the fixed exchange rate between the baht and the US dollar, leading to the abandonment of the fixed exchange rate system, and subsequently triggering regional financial turmoil. The outbreak of the Asian financial crisis dealt a heavy blow to this export-oriented economy. As global investor confidence collapsed and regional demand plummeted, Singapore's economy was severely impacted. In 1998, Singapore's GDP growth rate recorded a negative 2.2%, the lowest since the country's founding. But just as Singaporeans demonstrated at the time of independence, the crisis did not defeat them. Instead, it became an important opportunity for reflection. This crisis made Singaporeans realize that they had to break free from reliance on a single industry, especially electronics manufacturing, and push the economic structure toward greater resilience and diversification. To this end, the government gradually launched a series of reform measures, including positioning biomedical sciences as a new growth engine, building large-scale biotechnology parks, introducing various manpower development programs to enhance the workforce's technological adaptability, releasing a blueprint for the financial industry, relaxing restrictions on banking licenses, invigorating the capital market, and promoting the development of wealth management and high-end finance, among others. These reforms began to show results in the early 21st century, transforming Singapore from a place that started out in the difficult position of being expelled by Malaysia to now becoming an Asian model that consistently ranks among the top globally in terms of capital, talent, and governance. In just half a century, Singapore has written a truly remarkable story of turning the tide. This city-state has not only proven through concrete actions that a small country can also have a great future, but has also created a stable, efficient, and open national model through institutional development, strategic vision, and the hard-working spirit of its people. Of course, the miracle does not mean a life without worries. As Singapore steadily joins the ranks of wealthy nations, a series of new challenges have also emerged. Its high economic dependence on the global market means that it remains extremely sensitive to external fluctuations. An aging population, increasing social stratification, and rising anxiety among the youth are also continuously testing the resilience and inclusiveness of Singaporean society. At the same time, as Singapore sits at the crossroads of major power strategies, how it maintains diplomatic balance and safeguards its own diplomatic autonomy and national security has also become a test the country must face amid increasingly intense global competition in recent years. In short, for Singapore, its current achievements are far from the endpoint. They are merely the starting line for another long-distance race. Now, it must not only preserve the institutional and trust dividends built up over the past decades, but also bravely step into a world full of uncertainty. Even though the future is unknown, history has repeatedly proven that Singaporeans are never afraid of challenges. This nation, full of wisdom and courage, has long been accustomed to seeking self-reform amid adverse circumstances. Perhaps as a model for countries in the new era, Singapore will continue to be one of the most powerful authors of its ongoing story.